What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Tuesday, February 8th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 10-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. So if you want to save some salary at the point guard position, take a look at Marcus Smart. He's kind of a hit or miss player, but it does look like he's pretty low salary here, so he doesn't need much to hit value. And I think he can score his season average, which would get him over 5 times value. So Marcus Smart from the Boston Celtics playing the Brooklyn Nets, who have the 11th worst defense overall. They give up the second most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Marcus Smart has averaged 28.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He's projected at 26.3 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.2 times value. He's 5,100 DraftKings salary, 500 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 216.5 points scored in this game, and Marcus Smart has scored 18, 22, and 40 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 24, 25, and 33 minutes. So I don't like that his minutes have come down the past couple of games, but I do still think he can hit value here. And he's got some pretty big upside if he can get going, especially with his defensive stats. And I love this pick because Marcus Smart has scored 43, 29, 41, 38, and 38 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Brooklyn Nets. So it's a fantastic matchup and awesome player versus team history here. So I like Marcus Smart here versus the Brooklyn Nets. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won. And we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Jalen Green from the Houston Rockets playing the New Orleans Pelicans, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They give up the 11th most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. Jalen Green has averaged 23.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. He's projected at 23.9 fantasy points here tonight. I think he can score 25 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. He's 5,000 DraftKings salary, 300 less on FanDuel. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game. And Jalen Green has scored 30, 21, and 40 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 32, 23, and 35 minutes. So if he can get 30 plus minutes in this game, I think he'll have no problem hitting value. And he did score 30 fantasy points in his last game versus the Pelicans. So I like Jalen Green here versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Another shooting guard that I like, here's a value play. He's playing plenty of minutes, so he's got the upside. I like Kevin Huerter from the Atlanta Hawks playing the Indiana Pacers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing shooting guards. Kevin Huerter has averaged 21.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He's projected at 23 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's only $4,300 DraftKings salary. Now he is $1,200 more on FanDuel, so I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 227 points scored in this game, and Kevin Huerter has scored 18, 17, and 31 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 33, 26, and 37 minutes. And he scored 29, 27, 46, 36, and 46 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Pacers. So I love that player versus team history. Just think he's way too cheap on DraftKings. He's got 30 plus fantasy point upside. So I like Kevin Huerter here versus the Indiana Pacers.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on.
Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. I like LeBron James from the LA Lakers playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. LeBron James has averaged 54.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 37 minutes per game with a 31% usage rate. He's projected at 56.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's $10,500 DraftKings salary, same price on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 230.5 points scored in this game. So this is a good game to stack. And LeBron James came back and scored 65 fantasy points last game in 39 minutes. So I like LeBron James, who scored 59, 64, and 55 fantasy points in his last 3 games here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Harrison Barnes from the Sacramento Kings playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have the 10th worst defense overall. They give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Harrison Barnes has averaged 30.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He's projected at 31 fantasy points here tonight. I think he can score 35 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. He's $6,700 DraftKings salary, $100 less on FanDuel. And I like this pick because Vegas thinks there's going to be 232.5 points scored in this game. So a super high scoring game here. And Harrison Barnes scored 50, 37, and 36 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 39, and 28 minutes. So he's been on fire, and he scored 26, 40, 38, 45, and 32 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Timberwolves. So I like Harrison Barnes here versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Memphis Grizzlies playing the LA Clippers, who have the 12th worst defense overall. They give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Jaren Jackson Jr. has averaged 32.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. He's projected at 33.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's just about 5 times value. He's $6,800 DraftKings salary, $1,000 more on FanDuel, so I prefer that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 228 points scored in this game, and Jaren Jackson Jr. has scored 33, 50, and 35 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 28, 33, and 34 minutes, and he's got a good track record here versus the Clippers. He scored 57, 36, 35, and 34 fantasy points in his last 4 games here versus the LA Clippers.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.